you think about how the president got to this decision, circumstances have changed. They have. And a couple of things, and I said this on Monday as well. Republicans said they weren't going to let up, weren't going to stop. Recently announced Trump appointees for law enforcement have said on the campaign that they were out for retribution, and I think we should believe their words, right? We should believe what they say. The sentencing was coming up, as you all know. There was a sentencing coming up, and the president said this in his statement, that Hunter and his family had been through enough. Enough is enough.
All right, so before I start on that, Corinne Jean-Pierre, this is going to be the start to a podcast. Now, this is kind of like my dry run. I said, let me go ahead and just do a wrap up of the week. I'm going to be adding some other production elements and all of that kind of stuff to it, but just bear with me. Stuff going to be changing, but just know that this is a work in progress because, hey, I decided to do it myself. But you heard what Corinne Jean-Pierre has been saying about this pardon. Now, start out from the top. Nobody cares. Bruh, nobody cares. Anybody, I don't care who the person is, you would pardon your child. Now, it's a little different if you're talking about somebody being convicted of murder or, possibly you're like molesting a child, killing a child and all of that type of stuff. That is a little different. But on attacks and a gun charge, I don't care who it is. Republicans know that they would do it. Democrats know that they would do it. What I'll say off the top, though, from the Republicans' perspective, now, yeah, Joe Biden lied. Well, Joe Biden lied because everybody lies. The politicians lie all the time. But they said over and over again, and if they hadn't held themselves up like the one, like Jesus, God, if they hadn't held themselves up in this such a way, people may have been like, well, but they said over and over again, Corinne Jean-Pierre, she got exasperated in press conferences, saying, no, I've said it again. I've said it again. I'm not going to answer the question again. I've said it again. This is the same person today. It's a much different story. Now, it's a much different story because now I think that regardless if Joe Biden had won or not, he still was going to pardon his son. I would have done it. I don't know what he was grappling with. But when Republicans say that this is something that they notice that's different, though, about the cases where, for instance, Democrats have been bringing up, what's his name? Kushner, Jared Kushner. Well, that's his father. Let's be clear. Jared Kushner's father had not only served his sentence, I believe the dude paid the maximum sentence or maximum fine for that. So it's not the same as a Jared Kushner, even though it is a family member. But when Republicans point out how much different this is that Joe Biden expanded this. So it isn't just he was being pardoned for the gun crime. I think it was 2 misdemeanor tax charges and maybe a gun charge or something. It isn't that referencing those cases. It is everything over almost a 10-year period. Now, bro, who that sound like? That don't sound like nothing that Donald Trump did at all. And so now they're having these saying, well, he may do, which is what you heard Corinne Jean-Pierre say in this clip, what he may do. What they're saying, there's a concern now, what they said that they were going to do. Well, first of all, let's be clear. And this is the twofold response from Democrats, that it was appropriate for Biden to do this because of anticipation of what Trump would do. And what was the other one? Oh, that he was being treated differently or unfairly prosecuted. Now, I'm going to talk about those like two right there. So this idea that when have you heard, and I encourage you, now I look for it and I didn't do as thorough as I normally would, but because I kind of follow this stuff, it's kind of be in my head. I don't remember the last time I've heard Donald Trump say anything about going after Hunter Biden because Hunter Biden committed a crime. What I remember him saying is that how different the treatment of Hunter Biden is in comparison to how him, because Hunter Biden, there have been whistleblowers out there saying that the IRS blocked investigations into Hunter. So there have been a lot of things out there that are just very different when it comes to how people, at least Republicans, feel this is being treated. And you got to say, it is being treated a little different in even how people respond to it. So this is what the argument that they say. They're even throwing out now, well, maybe Joe Biden should pardon Liz Cheney. For what? Because they said, Donald Trump had said that they would be prosecuted for what? Not identified a crime. It's just going to happen just because there may be even people who he wants in his cabinet who believe that they may have done something. Okay, well, what? It's going to have to be a what there. He just can't be a wild, coyote, wild west where you could just go. And the idea that he was going to do that. Donald Trump even said that, what did he say? My success, success will be my revenge. Well, that's what he said. So a lot of this stuff is just a whole bunch of hyperbole. But something else that they said, though, is about Hunter Biden being treated differently. Now, I got a whole lot to say about that, about this whole, and for those who probably followed for any period of time or actually, you don't even have to follow me because, I try to document the stuff that I say with facts when I feel as, point that stuff out when I feel as if feel it when it's appropriate. But then other times you can just read the stuff for yourself. So let's go back to how this started. At least, let's go back to this period. Remember when it was not in 2018, which is when I believe Hunter Biden dropped the laptop off at the pawn shop. It was not in maybe about the winter of 2019 when the FBI, that may have even been December of 2019, when the FBI had custody of the laptop. Not 2020, at least 2020 when, was it Rudy Giuliani or Steve Bannon got access to it. They gave it to the New York Post. The New York Post ran a story. And there were 50 plus one intelligence officials who, wait a minute. So I said, not back to 2018. We can start. What about, let's just start at the debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump in 2020.
50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plant. They have said that this has all the five former heads of the CIA, both parties, say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage.
From the horse's mouth. Himself, Joe Biden quoted, he cited 50 plus one intelligence officials who had signed on to a letter saying that the laptop that the FBI had in custody at the time had all the hallmarks of Russian disinformation. Hunter Biden was being treated differently here. Joe Biden was asked about it over and over again. The White House said over and over again that it was not Hunter Biden's laptop. At some point, Hunter Biden, remember, the dude was trying to keep his daughters from getting his last name. He tried to sue people who exposed the laptop, which at one point, so on the one hand, he was suing people for this private information. Then on the other hand, saying that it really wasn't his. It had already been authenticated as his. But according to Biden and all of them, he's being treated differently. Now, the IRS, there were questions about the IRS investigation into him. There were questions about the statute of limitations that had been allowed to expire in some of those other cases. But make no mistake, Hunter Biden was getting paid, I think, about $80,000 a year from, Burisma, the company in Ukraine. Now, where Republicans have an argument, and I don't think that, unfortunately, Congress did enough to expose it, if there was a lot of there, but even if Joe Biden wasn't involved, it was definitely the appearance of a whole lot of influence peddling that Hunter Biden did, because what Burisma was an energy company. What was Hunter Biden's expertise in energy? Nothing. And around this time, I think this is when he was doing drugs. What was his expertise? No, he had a last name. Hunter Biden, as we found out in the laptop. Again, this ain't me just saying this. You can go look it up yourself. Hunter Biden, as part of these, I think, WhatsApp messages, he was doing a number of things. Now, this was during the time where he was addicted. He was complaining about the fact that he had to give Joe Biden half his salary. He was complaining about the fact that he had to foot the bill for his family. So it wasn't just giving Joe Biden half his salary. It was that he had to foot the bill for his family, meaning his larger family. He was in a message exchange, shaking down a Chinese businessman saying, my father is right next to me. He was trying to get this Chinese businessman, I don't know the context of it, but he wanted the dude to respond and the dude wasn't responding. He said, my daddy is sitting right here next to me. And if you don't call me back, that's the inherent threat right there. My daddy is sitting right here next to me. Now, he put Joe Biden in the room. The Republicans didn't put him in the room. The media didn't put him in, Fox News didn't put him in the room. His son put him in the room. So in more ways than one, he implicated his own father in this. And this is what a lot of what Republicans have been investigating. But that Hunter Biden was going into court in June of last year. All of that, June of last year was going into court saying, you know what, Slim, I'm about to plead to these 2 misdemeanors and maybe that gun charge. The judge said, whoa, Slim. But what about anything else that you've done? The Hunter Biden team looks at the defense or the judge like, well, yeah, the defense says, well, wait. Well, I mean, no, that's not exactly what we agreed to. And then there was a discrepancy. So he went in planning to plead, walked out of there not pleading because the deal fell through. Because why? Why else would the federal government go into court with not having a solid case where the defense is saying that there was an agreement that we had with the federal government? And the judge said, well, wait a minute, you can't have it. The idea that this grants you immunity from prosecution from anything else, no, that ain't gonna work. So Republicans have an argument here. This is not the same thing. But speaking of, and that's just on the gun, no, that's on the tax charge. But another argument that they've made, and Karine Jean-Pierre, she said, you heard her say something like, it's, almost, unison in people saying that nobody else had been convicted of these specific crimes. Joe Biden has said himself, if it wasn't Hunter Biden, in fact, Democrats have said, if it wasn't Hunter Biden, it wouldn't have. Okay. Now, what they're saying is Hunter Biden himself being with all of the deal. I wanted to pull this up so you could understand where I'm going with this. You probably have never heard the name Lavoris Dante McGee, 22 years old, from the great Magnolia State, my home state of Mississippi. I'm going to read what it says. Lavoris Dante McGee Jr., 2022, traveled to a federal firearm license in South Haven, Mississippi, and purchased a Diamondback model AR-15 blackout semi-automatic rifle. McGee filled out the ATF form 4473 required for the purchase of the gun and stated that he was not under felony indictment when, in fact, he was. Now, that's Lavoris Dante McGee. Goes on to say that in this year, he was actually sentenced to 20 months in federal prison, which was to be followed by 3 years of supervised release. The part again that you probably missed, because I'm going to repeat this on the other side. McGee filled out the ATF form 4473. So he lied on the form 4473, saying that he was not under felony conviction. Guess what else happened, though, about that 4473? Robert Hunter Biden, at that. And let me get his name right. Robert Hunter Biden knowingly made a false written statement on the form 4473 intended and likely to deceive the dealer that he purchased the firearm from when he certified he was not an unlawful user of or addicted to any stimulant, narcotic drug, or any other substance. Well, that wasn't true. So LaVorris lied on form 4473. Hunter Biden lied on form 4473. LaVorris, from the great Magnolia state of Mississippi, he's going to spend 20 months in jail. Hunter Biden gets a pardon. Again, no one cares. The dude getting a pardon. He should get a pardon. But these two things are not the same. And we're not going to sit up here and continue to act like they're the same. Because, yeah, there are people who have been convicted. And not just convicted, but sentenced to jail for lying on form 4473. Because that is what it was. Lying on form 4473. But the irony, and I think there's a lot of irony here, for Democrats, they don't seem to have an issue. Well, they seem to have an issue with the court saying that, the jury, not the court, the jury saying, you should have been convicted. They're saying that he was unfairly prosecuted. But do you remember that these are the same people who believe that it was justified, it's warranted, and in fact, that Donald Trump should go to jail, possibly go to jail, find over $400 million, have, 34 felony counts, because they love to say that. He's a convicted felon. Yeah, 34 felony counts, which are really just signatures, but it's neither here nor there. 34 felony counts for what you would assume is a felony that the federal government itself decided not to charge Donald Trump with. That's kind of missing in this whole 34 felony counts. The federal government, meaning the Federal Elections Commission, the agency that oversees federal election law, meaning if there is some type of campaign violation, the Federal Election Commission issues that violation. It doesn't have any law enforcement authority, I don't think, but the FEC, that's what the FEC does. That's what the FEC did in 2016 with Hillary Clinton. Remember when they fined Hillary Clinton about the Hillary Clinton campaign a little over $100,000? This was back in I think that may have been part of that whole dossier thing. But they fined him $100,000 because they falsified, they cited something as a legal expense. I should have looked that up before I even mentioned it. But essentially, they falsified the records. They were saying that the money that was used for opposition research was maybe under legal or whatever it was. There was no category for what Donald Trump did, and they filed it under legal expenses. So this felony, this was a state crime that was elevated to a felony. But again, it's a felony. No, which is why you asked me, well, what was Donald Trump, what was the felony that he was convicted of? Like, what was the actual, the federal violation was what? What do you mean? There is no I. You don't know because the judge, and if I'm right, and I'll say this, I'm not going to always be right. And if I'm not right, I will acknowledge that. As my granddaddy used to say, I'm not always right. There are two rules about life, about me in life. The first rule is that I'm always right. The second rule is that if you think that I'm wrong, just refer to the first rule. Okay, how I started talking about my granddaddy, I don't know. Maybe I miss my granddad. You don't have to just listen to me. Go and look it up yourself. Search for the actual federal violation that Donald Trump committed. Just search for it. There is a reason why the federal government decided not to pursue the case. There is a reason that Alvin Bragg's predecessors decided not to pursue the case. So the same people who believe all of this about Donald Trump, they believe that Hunter Biden is being treated differently. Now, I call BS on that. Of course, it was always some BS. And I said that at the top. This was always some BS. But just know that these people are not serious. This whole idea, this is this better than thou attitude that many people on the left have. They don't care about principles. It is all about politics. You heard Kamala Harris said it during the campaign. My values haven't changed. You're right. It's your politics that change.